Hey, how's it going, guys? In an earlier video, I showed off what I was able to make with G in just a few short months, starting with a 1 bill cash stack. In this video, I'll be showing you how it all started, taking you on the journey I took, starting with OSRS release all the way to G release. And after this video, I'll try to push out the next one, which will cover the big merges I've done post G, including a 3 bill profit month and passing the my goal of a 10 bill net worth. Since max cape is passing quite comfortably right now, I'll be resuming to grinding out max total. A little background on my merching and playing RS. Prior to OSRS release, I was mainly playing RS3 for quite a while. At that point, I was just flipping party hats and doing investments here and there. I had completed my rare set goal quite a while ago, paying as high as 8 bill for my first Christmas cracker, which I later sold for a loss because Madu was hoarding them at the time, and then he dumped about 1 or 2 weeks after I bought mine. This is the most recent picture I have of my R3 bank. I had a lot more than this, but over the last few years, I've spent bills on titles, Treasure Hunter, Solomon Store, also lent some to my brother, which he lost from recent hacking. But anyways, I've been merching since since I started playing in 2003, so I've had many years experience with merching, so when OSRS release came out, I was a lot more prepared than most people. Here are the last of my achievements prior to OSRS release. I achieved two major goals I had. One, which was completing a rare set in R3, and two, getting a trim completionist kit, which I got a couple months after OSRS release. That was after they changed the Castle Wars requirement from 5k games to owning full profound. Castle Wars was the only requirement I left for like over a year, but I wasn't gonna put in the time to play all those games, so it was nice that they changed the requirement. OSRS came out on February 22nd, 2013, which is nearly 2.5 years to this day. I didn't stay up for a release, but I did start playing on the very first day. When I first got on, there was over 50,000 players already on, and some people had already gotten pretty high stats, like 30 fishing. With a fresh game, it was very important to use time very wisely to get ahead of the curve. Some took the route of trying to make a lot of money early on to pick up cheap items. Others went the route of trying to get very high skills to capitalize on being sole suppliers of select items early on. A notable accomplishment early on was James of RuneShark, who was the first to get 85 Slayer on his account Scooby-Doo. So he had a monopoly on whips for a time, and at least some of the people who got first in high non-combat skills had help with account sharing or sharing wealth, so regular players never really had a chance in production skills. I didn't have much of a clue what to do when I started on Tutorial Island, so first thing I did was go fishing some shrimps. Then I heard silk was really good money. Since there wasn't all that much money in a game at the time, thieving silk and selling for whatever little GP you got out of it had a lot of buying power. And at the time, some items like flax, for instance, this was before Nightmare Zone, so people actually had to pick flax. Flax was going for 10 GP each, which I bought a fair bit of flax to get me started crafting, which helped for some early quest requirements like Lost City, but also getting some starting cash, which I put into Essence to start building up my cash stack. Now, the first picture here you see was taken on March 14th, 2013. This wasn't even a month after Old School came out, and I found a glory from someone who died in the abyss, so that's free money for me. And keeping in mind a glory enemy this early in the game, that must have been pretty difficult for the person to have gotten, and to just lose it like that, that's pretty unfortunate. Now, this was taken on March 22nd, 2013, just 1 month after OSRS release. So in just the first month, I achieved lead total 65 RC, so I made quite a bit there. Looking at my stats, it doesn't look like I excelled in any particular skill, which is true. I couldn't compete with people who account shared or played 24-hour days. What I could do, however, was take bits of profit from every market and eventually get to a point where I could do it all. I started merching from the very get-go, even being on the official RS forums on the very first day trading, all the while skilling. Looking at my stats, you can see my combat skills were quite lousy beside magic. I had 76 magic, 63 crafting, and 76 fletching, which could only mean one thing: enchanted bolts. Early on, making diamond bolts was 1 mil GP an hour, which was absolutely insane for the time. I also got into herb lore fairly early on when I had funds. I didn't just make profit on the potions, I also made profit flipping all the herbs, secondaries, potions. Basically, I would buy bulk and I would flip it on to other people. If you played early on, you might remember the name Wilson Magna, who had tons and tons of buy and sell listings on Zybiz on just about everything skilling related. This was taken on March 16, 2013 on my way to 99 Herblore. I got to meet many people such as Bodhi Sparkmac and many others. No Grand Exchange had its charms and things going for it, but it was just too archaic a trading system, and I enjoy the Grand Exchange much more. It was an interesting time though. You don't meet suppliers with the Grand Exchange. Like for instance, Waterfield Vial on my friends list was the biggest supplier of Waterfield Vials in the game. I literally bought millions from him and flipped them back when Waterfield Vials were going for anywhere from 30 to 100 GP each. Again, this was before the shop sold them in packs, so you actually had to compete for the vial stock. I did quite a lot of questing early on. In a bit over a month, I had completed RFD quest. I don't recall why I quested, but access to Nightshades with the Watchtower quest complete was very helpful down the line. This is the first hard clue I completed. Hard clues were extremely profitable early on since no one had the skills to make rune yet, so items like Rune Axe, Rune Helm, Rune Kite, and Rune Scimitars were very valuable. Later on, it was discovered that you could get rune axes from tree spirits that spawn in the Enchanted Valley, which at the time rune axes were fetching for 200k, so it was the best moneymaker in the entire game. Herblore was a great skill to meet many new players from the Slayers to PKers. I ran this thread for about a month or so, meeting some notable names in the community and making a lot of friends. Along with all the other items I traded, I turned World 338 Bank into a vibrant bank, and always I had a large number of players waiting to trade me. Back then I shot for 50k profit per trade minimum, and with trades taking just a few seconds and a large numbers of players trying to trade me, you can imagine how fast it was for me to build up my bank. Kingdom was extremely profitable early on, especially given how much money was worth at the time. I was making about 1 mil profit a week, and getting favor up just took a few minutes a week. On the same day that I hit lead posts on my Herblore thread, I also achieved 99 Herblore in less than 2 months of Old School being out, and without a Grand Exchange and how little supplies there were in a game so young. I didn't do much rune crafting. I mostly camped World 338 Varrock, West Bank, and traded while skilling. Many of the skills that were obtained as quest requirements, but the magic was almost entirely from enchanted bolts. The race to level 99 Herblore was fierce. While I was around level 80 to 90, it was already difficult to make any profit from training the skill, but I wanted the skill cape. I recall Maul Happier being possibly the first person to get level 99 Herblore. He made something like 100 to 200 mil within the first month. I had to fight many of the top ranks for every herb, secondary, Waterfield Vial, and more. Sometime along the way, I befriended Talk2, who went on to become the first to get 200 mil Herblore. I also did a little Herblore post 99 to get those ranks. At the time, I wanted to be a Zerker like back in the day. This account used to be quite the Bounty Hunter creator PKer and was a god during Bounty Hunter world era. Being a max Zerker with 99 summoning, 60 attack, 99 strength, range, magic, and 45 defense. I think I also had 52 prayer. This is the same account I used to beat mini-max players at dual tournaments who had divines, back when all combat levels fought in the same tournament rating range. I had my stats up quite a bit to this point. I had gotten level 80 smithing specifically to be able to forge Godsword blades in anticipation of God War's release. I did quite a bit of Slayer as a Zerker, and of course, still getting all those magic crafting and fleshing gains from doing bolt enchants. I made more progress to quest goal requirements, but beside that, I was working on leveling combat. I also made more than anyone off of weapon poison P++s. I was insanely efficient at how I spent my time in game. For example, whenever I was idle doing stuff like bolt enchants, I was also picking up nightshades, resulting in over 2 mil GP an hour. Again, 2 mil GP an hour when old school was only out for about 7 months. And this was before God Wars. I was making 2 mil GP an hour. I started making the poisons when they were going for 35k each in bulk to around 7 to 10k each before giving up on it because it was no longer worthwhile for me. This was part of the attraction of getting high Herbler early on. Not many people could get access to nightshades and also do bolt enchants, making it super efficient. And here I do some more questing. Having high quest points helped to get more Slayer blocks, but I also kind of just wanted to share the giant mouse. This was taken on September 29, 2013, just a few weeks from God War's release. I decided to ruin my Zerker to get my account stats ready to make bank on God War's release. October 11, 2013, I chinned 99 range in preparation to camp Kriara on release day. This was less than a week from release, and I was still enchanting bolts throughout this period, having leveled 90 magic now, level 88 fletching, and 75 crafting. October 17, 2013, God War's release day, a major game changer introducing many of the most powerful weapons and armors into the game, until Zora. I had spent weeks training up my account for this day as my luck would have it. Days of camping God Wars after release resulted in 0 unique drops. I ended up losing quite a bit of money since I literally had no good drops and it costed quite a bit to kill Kriara. I quit PVMing after that and I tried my luck again with merching. I went on to dominate the Godsword smithing business, making over 100 mil from buying shards, making blades, and selling them. And enchanting diamond bolts was even more profitable thanks to God War's release. It was a little sad though, all the PVMers coming to me wanting to buy bolts would tell me all the Armadillo hilts they were getting, and many of them were lucky enough to get many, making hundreds of mils. Back to my roots, I attempted flipping all God Wars dungeon items with moderate success on top of the profits I made from the usual items I merged. At the time you could see Matracking X logging in. Too bad he doesn't play anymore from what I hear. I did some Kriara with a friend, Molecule X2, and random teams in a PVM clan I joined for God Wars, but my luck was just awful. I did buy a fair number of hilts and such from people in my PVM clan I was in, as well as selling them diamond bolt E's and other goods. A lot of money was made during this time despite me not doing any PVM. From this section alone you can see I made Godsword blades in bulk. I cooked Chrome bonds for 1 mil GP an hour, and this was without one ticking. If I tried to one tick, it would have been 5 mil GP an hour. I had a bulk supplier selling me anywhere from 30 to 70k raw Chrome bonds at a time, and I flipped them for a very nice profit. I bought half keys and dragonstones in bulk so that I could make glories and dragon bolt E's. I also made diamond and ruby bolties in bulk while using an ult to do all the cutting for me. I also sold dragon dart and arrows in bulk, black d'hide sets in bulk, and I had over 13,000 weapon poison P++s made, which made me a nice fortune. I also sold bulk dragon dagger P++s. Dimon's a fellow competitor of mine during that time. Anyone who played during this time would know the names. He had a lot of bot contacts selling him bulk body goods for cheap prices, while I had to fight for every little bit on Zybiz. Diamonds were going for around 5k each around this time, and diamond bolts were fetching anywhere from 1.2 to 1.7k each around God War's release. They were a lot higher because people were using them for Kriara. Here I achieved 100 mil total EXP. These are results of me doing skilling and merching instead of doing God Wars. I achieved level 95 magic primarily from doing bolt enchants, nearly 99 cooking achieved primarily from cooking Chrome bonds for over 1 mil GP an hour, level 95 fletching achieved primarily from fletching gem tip bolts. Level 82 smithing, a fair bit of that was from making Godsword blades, and some more Orb gains. I gained 450k range EXP past level 99, which shows just how long I camped Kiara without a single drop. About a week after God of War's release, I achieved level 80 crafting, so I would have all the skills needed to craft glories. Glories were fetching 100k bulk sales, and in World 2 they were going for 120k, so I profited as much as 20k per glory. Now I had the skills to craft full Black Dragonite sets, which was about 20k profit per set, along with fabulous crafting EXP. Level 94 magic achieved primarily from doing bolt enchants, which comes out to about possibly 115k bolt enchants, so it's possible that I enchanted over 1,000,000 bolts at this point, and having the level to use Vengeance and the Ice Barrage was also nice. Now I can use up all those Dragon Dart tips I had piling up in my bank since I couldn't fletch them at the time. As usual, I tried to make the most of my time, only stocking Nightshade when I had gem tip bolts that needed to be fletched or bolt enchants to do. Now I could add Fury Crafting to the list of profitable skilling methods I could do. Buying stone, then producing the amulet myself would net usually 150 to 200k each. I made a lot of Furies over the months. Smithing rune bolts was actually profitable then. Rune bars were going for 10 to 12k each, and rune bolts were 1.5k each. I no longer had to keep lining the pockets of high-level smithers so much money when I needed to make bulk dragon bolties. Here I am with my friend Bob Hask cooking Karambans, which was at this point still over 1 mils GP an hour. As I got wealthier and built more contacts, I began being able to do even larger bulks on everything. Like in the chat here, I had over 500 dragon stones ready to make into glory enemies. November 21st, 2013, Slayer update was due in the new year, so I stocked tons of cannonballs, all while flipping them in bulk. I started buying them when they were around 200 each, and by the time the Slayer update came out, they were going for 260 to 270 each pretty quickly. Here I am with my friend Anti. This is what my inventory typically looked like when I was at Varrock West Bank making ranged ammo such as enchanting bolts, darts, arrows. I started doing even bulkier amounts like the 773k cannonballs you can see right there. That there is my bulk production stepped up a few notches. If you look me up today, you'll see I have fairly high magic, fletching, and crafting EXP, and by now you should know why. I produce a sizable chunk of all the diamond bolties in a game at this point. December 5th, 2013, how I made nearly 1 bill OSRS GP in such a short amount of time. This is 10 months, about 9 months. 9 months after the game came out, I had already made nearly 1 bill in OSRS GP. It would actually be more than 1 bill if but I swapped a few hundred mil OSRs to RS3 when exchange rates were still very high, like 1 mil OSRs being worth 12 to 20 mil RS3. I turned 1 bill OSRS GP with G release to well over 10 bill in just the last couple months. I hate to think how much more I would have if I swapped my entire R3 bank to OSRs when the exchange rates were 6 mil R3 to 1 mil OSRs during Grand Exchange release. So I could start Grand Exchange with 5 bill instead of what I actually did start out with, which was around 1 bill. At this point, I was wealthy enough to bulk merch pretty much everything. Looking around the bank, you can see I have bulks like 141k Cosmics, 529 Glories, 350 Loot Path Keys, 130k Diamond Bolt Tips, 14,379 Coconut Shells, which at one point was Weapon Poison P++ that I made, bulk Black Dragonite sets, bulk Tree Seeds, bulk Feathers, bulk Cannonballs, even bulk Furies. I was able to produce all the important skilling products, and I had the means to do it in bulk. Some may have seen how empty my bank video was, but that is because I put every GP I have into making even more money. Here I finally achieved level 99 fletching, not by fletching or stringing bows, but almost entirely from making gem tip bolts and feathering unfinished bolts. At this point I was able to do stuff like make 1k glories a day for 3 mil GP an hour, and then add all the profits I also make from everything else. December 7th, 2013, another stat update. I've level 98 magic, crafting, and cooking. Some of the skills I have improved, like 86 smithing and 75 hunter. I try to make my own animate bolts since it was actually profitable to do so and getting me a level to make rune bolts and more. I was also soon to knock out 399s, starting with cooking, crafting, then magic. The date is December 2013. We're still in the first year of old school, and this is the kind of bulk some of the richest merchants in the game were managing at the time. I personally started a Amulet of Glory trim collection. This guy helped me build my Amulet of Glory trim collection with the large amount he had. Luckily, I had something he wanted. This was some of the kind of junk I had to deal with back then. People who didn't pay in cash. I started flipping some third age around this time with moderate success. This total trade was something about 20 mil. I think I bought the amulet for maybe 8 mil, so that was a nice profit. Rune knives at this time were fetching around 3k each, which made smithing them very profitable. You get 5 of them per bar, so that's 15k, about the same as rune bolts, but you have 2 different items you can make so that you can sell them quicker. And this added to a list of products that I could make for a profit. And here's a picture of me trading someone with the actual name, Rune Knives. Pricing in this trade I think goes around 2.7k, which is not bad. Profit is profit. In the inventory you can notice I have 901 glories. At this time it was somewhat common for me to have 1k glories to sell and plenty of cash to also flip many other items. This is one thing I didn't like about pre-GE. It wasn't fair competition. Many big merchants, excluding myself, would get massive stocks of body goods for dirt cheap prices because they were buddies with the gold farmers. Top ranked players also would get first dibs at many things that gold farmers collected. Like in the chat, you can see my friend, he bought 121k magic logs, 500k maples, and 300k regular logs. Imagine if you were a regular player trying to buy that on Zybiz. You wouldn't get that much. The amount of items gathered by bots daily was insane. Many bots had recently been banned, so the U-logs I stocked were due for a nice rise. And from the looks of my bank, my Godsword, Bladesmithing, Dragonstone products, Diamond products got even bulkier. I also started making bulk snakeskin boots, which were selling for 30k each. Sadly, I still had tons of them when Zora came out, which pretty much made them worthless. Now I'm able to smith rune kites, which was another item I could add to the list of items that I could make for profit, although the profit was rather underwhelming, but the EXP was still good. February 26, 2014, about a year after Old School has been out, I achieved my favorite skill cape, the Hit Points Constitution skill cape. As you can tell, I'm a major Nightmare Zone prod with nearly max melee, with only 74 Slayer. It took me many months to stock this many rune ores, and also a very long time for a friend of mine, a Shocky 80 Mat, to superheat all of them for me. With me paying him generously, of course. I wanted to do Blast Furnace, but at this time no one was interested in the activity. It wasn't as popular as it is today, even bought it heavily. Had it been the case, I would have made a lot of money turning these into rune bars myself, and saving myself a ton of money. I believe this was my last bank skill, achieved on March 6, 2014. I Dwarven Stouted all of level 97 to 99 smithing, making rune plate legs to achieve 99 smithing as fast as I could. Most of these records are done by people who 6-hour so that they could do 30-hour days, but for me, this was probably about 17 or so hours of me smithing adamant plate bodies, then rune plate legs. I lost quite a bit of money, and this record has since been beaten, of course, thanks to GE making it easier for players to stock skilling supplies. Here I am at Nightmare Zone, knocking out 99 strength, 99 attack, and 99 defense. Had I known that people were doing Guthans in here, I would have done that instead. That would have been a lot less effort. But yeah, I max melee at Nightmare Zone with 74 Slayer. After achieving 99 smithing, I was pretty much done with all my bank skills, and I slowed down on the money making and grinding I did. Also took some breaks in 2014, so it was rather uneventful. I did a lot of AFKing at Nightmare Zone as well as many of my AFK skills. Here, March 7, 2014, I started dabbling in Third Age with some moderate success. But since I'm a skiller, I lost out on tons of sales because I don't camp World 1 Varrock Southwest. I just use Zybez. Margins on stuff like plating and legs were something like 5 to 20 mil. And here is one of the kite trades I've done. Third age kites were very expensive back then. Since there were no spirit shields at the time, they were very coveted, seeing as you could wear them with a melee set, you could wear them with mage set to show off your wealth. Before I started flipping kites, I remember at one point kites were going for as much as 300 plus mil a time before spirit shields. Margins on these were something like 10 to 30 mil. And here is one complete third age set I've sold for what looks like 500 mil. It looks like 500 mil with the Armadillo and the whips. Very few people had the kind of money to be able to sell complete sets like myself, and the very next day buying back for like 90 mil less. That was very nice. Although that's without a helm, so that was probably around 60 mil profit. At this point, I no longer merch lower value items like skilling supplies and products since I already achieved level 99 in all my bank stats, in my bank skills. I started to merch less and less, and since I found the profits were just not worth it, I'm not going to sit at a bank trying to... What made merching very, very nice for me then was I was training my bank skills while merching, but if I'm just going to merch, it's really not worth my time. You might be able to guess what's in store. Max combat skills. Here I knock out 99 fishing, the AFK scaling I was doing in 2014. There were still mandatory random events at this time, so I hopped to PvP worlds to avoid getting random events so I could AFK more, which also puts me at the risk of getting PK'd. When I was fishing here, there was this one guy, he was really annoying. He would constantly hop to try and kill me. He just hops like at random times trying to PK me, and I wouldn't even drop anything. I would just drop fish. But one person I commonly ran into here was Miss Rising. And here I knock out 99 woodcut, again on PvP world to avoid random events. Looking back now, I regret knocking out my AFK skills this early on because now my remaining skills are agility, mining, runecrafting, and Slayer. Slayer I'm saving for last. But my remaining skills, they are not AFK. I can't multitask with them, so I don't gain much EHP nowadays. This was on the day of Bounty Hunter release. A fair bit of money was made on consumables that I merched, commonly used by PKers, and I also managed to kill someone. Although the one kill that I did get, it was more due to the servers getting hit off, and I being in tank here was able to survive. BH boosting was also pretty broken. People were using level 3s to fight their other level 3s, and people were making 3 to 5 mil GP an hour using their ults. Luckily, Jagex fixed that pretty quickly. A lot of money was made leading up to corp release from investments in consumables, luckily, like brews, super stores, sharks. Luckily, I sold off all my brews like maybe 1 or 2 hours before corp release, because corp ended up being so fast to get back to that no one actually used brews or even restores. Just a day after corp release, I got an arcane sigil in a 4-man team with my friend Mini Finbar and a couple of his max friends. The price arcane was at that time was around 40 to 70 mil, so it was really underwhelming. Sigils were very cheap at that time. I think Ellie's were something like 500 mil. That was one of the few times I had above average luck. I went on to do another 200 kills without seeing another sigil. This was one of the most annoying level 99s for me to achieve. It was 1, very click intensive, and 2, on my wireless connection, I noticed just how much delay I was getting, which drastically reduced the EXP rates I was able to achieve. This was on January 22nd, 2015. Grand Exchange was due to be released in 1 month, so I camped Zora for 1800 KC to build up a cash stack in preparation to capitalize on all the Grand Exchange release volatility. I didn't do elites for the money, but I did it more as a break, and the fact that elites were pretty rare to get. This was the best elite I got from Zora, valuing at about 9 mil at the time, getting both the Black D-High-G chaps and the Ranger tunic. That's probably one of the best you could actually get. One of the best combinations outside of getting Third Age, obviously, or Ranger boots, but you don't get Ranger boots from Elites. I bought my first Elite Third Age, the Wand, for 200 mil on February 8, 2015, and just 10 days later, I sell it for 450 mil to another mercher, making me 250 mil profit just a week before G was to be released, which was huge for me, having 450 mil more to spend to merch with. Between the profits I made from the first year of merching, Zora, and this wand flip, I was now adequately prepared to merch when the G was to be released. And that concludes what I did in the first 2 years of Old School release, with the bulk of it being in the first year. For those of you who want to read the text version of this video, you can find a link to it in the description. The next progress video of this kind I won't be doing until I get Max Cape, which I'm still 32 levels away from. I put an insane amount of hours into putting this thread and video together, so if you enjoyed watching, I would much appreciate a like and for you to share it. Again, I'll try to push out my next video today or tomorrow, which will be of my merch feats post-GE, netting me well over 10 bill in profit, so stay tuned. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.